If you're old enough to remember when gas was less than $2 a gallon, you probably also remember the crash of 2008, even if you didn't own real estate at the time. But the fear of that most recent crash has a lot of people worried that the same thing's gonna happen again. But spoiler alert, here are 3 graphs to show that another crash is not happening. Business Insider was recently quoted saying, "Though many Americans believe the housing market is at risk of crashing, the economists who study housing market conditions overwhelmingly do not expect a crash in 2024 or beyond." Why are industry experts so darn confident? Data! There is a lot of it to review, and it's showing how unlikely a major crash like 2008 is going to be. First of all, for a crash to happen, what would we need? We would need to have too many homes for sale. Even though inventory right now, or the number of houses for sale, is increasing, it is still nowhere near the level that we would need to see a crash. If your house takes 3 months or more to sell right now, that is not uncommon historically, though right now it feels like an eternity. But it's when we have so much inventory that houses are taking 13 months to sell that we begin to have a problem. Look at Florida. Since 2008, this is the monthly inventory. And while inventory in Florida is climbing, it's still nowhere near the levels that it was in 2008 and 2009. Nationally, we are seeing a similar trend. There are more homes for sale, but it's still well below the average levels. So what about new builds? So many new construction homes are being built. Isn't that gonna slow the market way down? Maybe at some point, but not yet. After 2008, new construction was absolutely decimated, and it has taken all this time until just recently for it to recover. In fact, this is the first year since the crash that new construction levels have actually caught up. Okay, fine, but you know, the foreclosures are coming. Well, actually, they're not. During the pandemic, foreclosure levels just plummeted because the government put in a foreclosure moratorium that prevented foreclosures from happening. So the theory was that when the moratorium was lifted, a giant wave of foreclosures was going to come up from that COVID delay. And foreclosure numbers have risen, but they haven't gotten anywhere near the pre-pandemic levels. Any foreclosure is bad news in my mind, because that means that somebody with the dream of home ownership ran into a circumstance that caused that dream to fail. That's awful, and I wish nobody ever lost a job or had a medical issue that forced them to give their house back to the bank. But if we look at the data right now, the foreclosure numbers are still really low. For a crash to happen, home prices would have to decrease significantly. And for home prices to decrease significantly, we would have to see the number of homes for sale increase dramatically. As Forbes explains, as already high home prices continue trending upward, you may be concerned that we're in a bubble ready to pop. However, the likelihood of a housing market crash, a rapid drop in unsustainably high home prices due to waning demand, remains low for 2024. And as Lawrence Young, the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors, says, we will not have a repeat of the 2008-2012 housing market crash. There are no risky subprime mortgages that could implode, nor the combination of a massive oversupply and overproduction of homes. This is good news, by the way. A crash would be a bad thing. Yes, a crash would cause housing prices to drop, but a crash also means economic trouble. And if you lose your job, you can't get a loan to buy a house no matter how cheap that house gets. And I think the common mistake that a lot of people are making right now is they're confusing a market crash with the return of seasonality. We haven't seen it in a while, but trust me, seasonality is back, and don't let it fool you. I'm Lindsey Johnson, your resource for all things real estate. See you next time.